Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the committee. I'm Nadine Chabrier. I'm a Senior Policy Counsel at the Center for Responsible Lending, and I'm going to talk about a little bit more detail on Buy Now, Pay Later, cover some of the same things and add some more color and echo some of the caveats. So I'm focusing my comments, of course, on the Pay in 4, distinguished from longer-term installment loans. As Molly mentioned and others, these are point of sale. You purchase 4 equal installments over 6 weeks. And some lenders offer a virtual credit card that you can use as well, which offers the same payment plan. So different permutations, same idea. So in terms of the numbers that the CFPB gave us in its most recent report, I just want to say a couple of things about those. So, consumer use really increased dramatically during the pandemic, but now has slowed down during the 2022-2023 period. That's the most recent information we have based on that most recent publication. So CFPB looked only, as our other panelists have said, at the 6 largest firms, and they looked at the 335 million loans totaling 45 billion, average loan 135. So this is a 23% increase from 2022 to 2023, similar increase in originations, but it's smaller than previous years. And so this estimation that they have of 53 million users by the 6 firms is really likely to be an overestimation, as we've kind of talked about. So Buy Now, Pay Later doesn't consistently show on credit reports. So there's no way to tell the amount that each individual borrower uses or the number of users, unique users. And so we're also not able to tell when people access more than one lender. And previously, our CFPB has told us that 63% of users have multiple simultaneous loans, again, with some limitations. So we're seeing consumers using Buy Now, Pay Later more frequently, going up from 745 average per lender per year, but also late fees and charge-offs declined. And so speaking to one of the questions asked, the automatic payment process that they have in place really helps with that. And so the estimate of the average debt per person is likely an underestimate because we can't account for all those people who borrow from multiple lenders. And we don't know the total amount borrowed across all consumers because CFPB didn't look at the entire universe of lenders, just the biggest. I just wanted to add those kind of things to think about in terms of the numbers. So next slide. So as mentioned, younger Black, Latino, women consumers are more likely to use BNPL, folks with incomes under $50,000. So the consumer who uses Buy Now, Pay Later tends to be highly indebted. They have higher balances on their credit cards. They may have delinquencies on their traditional credit products. They might be using, or more likely to be using, payday, pawn, overdraft, and they also are likely to have higher credit card utilization rates and lower credit scores. So, bears repeating, no checks and balances on people taking out multiple loans. And we don't also know the causal effects of BNPL. So I would not want to suggest that there's good data on what happens to people across income levels when they start using or they end up with a lot of such debt. Moving on to the next slide. Next slide, please. So how do people use it? Retail purchases, and it can be a mix of wants and needs. So you can get luxury items, makeup, but we are moving into food delivery, groceries, gas, travel expenses. And so the Federal Reserve study did mention that people use it because they can't afford the purchase price at one time. And CFPB additionally found, it's easy to access. So about 70% of consumers were approved in 2021. That's the most recent data that I've seen. So let's talk about the federal landscape. So we have talked about the CFPB, and they withdrew an interpretive rule that defined buy now, pay later as a digital credit card. So this gets to some of the discussion you all were having earlier. So defining buy now, pay later as a digital credit card gave consumers some of those protections that consumers would expect and they normally get under the Truth in Lending Act, like disclosures, statements, dispute protections, which consumers have complained about having issues with. So CFPB, in withdrawing that rule, noted it won't enforce any violations of the rule against lenders. And they had released a really, at the time that they issued the rule, they released a really detailed document showing how to issue statements and otherwise comply with the interpretive rule, which is now scrubbed, but I have it, which is great. I saved it. So that's kind of the landscape the states are left with. And so I'll just speak again to what you were all talking about earlier, was that the digital credit card doesn't give this full scope of protections under the Truth in Lending Act, but it did give CFPB the ability to give some of those protections under Subpart B of Reg Z. So, here we have consumers wanting and perhaps expecting some of the same protections they get from a credit card, but they're not going to get a reprieve from their state regulator. So here's where we see states step in. So next slide, please. Yes, we're there. So there's a few buckets in which the states are operating. We see data gathering, we see licensing, supervision, applying existing law, and passing new legislation. So the states have just stepped up, and where the CFPB has really signaled it intends to do much less. In California, of course, buy now, pay later is considered loan under the law, and then lenders must be licensed. They have to, there are rules in terms of how the loans are marketed, how are they made, how much interest the license holder can charge, and how debt collection can take place. And so I have looked closely at the New York buy now, pay later law. So interesting thing about this law, it does apply to installment lenders as well as buy now, pay later lenders. So it has an even broader scope. So it's really an essential and wonderful step towards protecting consumers from harm in the state. So it provides for licensing, as mentioned, supervision. It makes sure that installment lenders adhere to the New York State rate cap. It establishes fees and limits, disclosures, and all the dispute rights that credit cards have. Next slide, please. And so we also have the attorneys general looking into the big six. So North Carolina, California, Connecticut, Illinois, Wisconsin, Colorado, Minnesota, they sent a letter to the biggest buy now, pay later lenders. And so some of these same issues that keep coming up over and over again are raised. And they're seeking information on these. So what do buy now, pay later lenders do about ability to repay? And I have to say that process is not super transparent. What kind of dispute protections are they offering? What are they doing with credit reporting? How do they deal with repeated debits when something is declined? And how do they deal with customer service? So interesting landscape and a lot more to come, I think. So I'll pass it back to Molly to talk about what may be next in Washington.